Hi everyone, welcome back to the US CPA classes for business analysis and reporting examination. So we are in state and local governmental accounting. In this particular video, I'll be walking you through in detail about the typical item and specific type of transaction and event measurement, including the calculation and presentation of government entity financial statement. And the major topic we'll be covering in this particular video is about capital assets and infrastructure assets, general assets, proprietary assets and long-term liability. So let's dive into to understand more in detail specific item like capital assets, infrastructure assets, proprietary assets, general assets and the long-term liabilities in detail. Hi everyone, welcome back to the governmental accounting. I think we'll try to finish off governmental accounting today itself. There would be one or two topics which may be left over. So I'll make the notes of the same and send it to you late in the night today. So will try to fix it, the governmental accounting today. The next topic which we need to start is the capital asset and infrastructure asset. So capital asset, as you all know, like property, plant, equipment. Infrastructure assets is basically you can say dams, bridges, airport, railway line. So those kind of projects are called infrastructure projects. So when you look at from the government perspective, so they have both kind of assets. Your normal property, plant and equipment for the overall operation and functioning of the government, plus the infrastructure project which they develop, which is like highways, roads, dams, bridges, airports, railway station, shipping places for the shipping containers and all those things, right? So those all comes under the infrastructure assets. So capital assets you can say is a proprietary fund and are accounted for both in the proprietary fund as well as in the government-wide financial statement. So you'll be disclosing property, plant and equipment at the fund level, and the consolidated property, plant and equipment you will disclose in the government-wide financial statement. Whereas for the fiduciary fund, if there is any fiduciary fund that you all know, this is for the third party you are managing. So you'll be reporting the property, plant and equipment relating to the fiduciary fund in only in the fiduciary fund financial statement. That will not go and consolidate in the government-wide financial statement. And the general capital assets are reported solely in the governmental activity. So if there are general assets which is not related to any fund asset, that is being related to the governmental activity and is being considered in the consolidation of the government-wide financial statement. Second is intangible asset. What is intangible asset? As we all know, the assets which we cannot touch and feel it, more of like you can say patent, copyright, trademark, right? Or you can say the softwares. Those are being considered as intangible assets that lack the physical substance and has a useful life which is beyond one reporting period, that is more than 12 months, right? And these are also reported as capital assets and including limited life of the intangible that are amortized. So physical assets are depreciated and intangible assets are amortized as well as compared for the impairment testing as well at each period end, right? So intangible assets may be the assets which you have acquired, or it can be internally generated intangible assets except goodwill. So what is internally generated assets? Internally generated intangible assets, for example, if you're doing any research, for example on any medicine, right? Like 𝐂𝐴, yeah, you are right. So right, so they were doing research. To the extent the amount you are investing on research, it will go to the expenditure. But once the feasibility is being established, and then if you are investing any money for the development, from the development stage to the stage it is being ready for the commercial production, whatever the investment you are making, you can capitalize that. And that capitalization amount is being considered as intangible asset which you can amortize over the expected useful life of that intangible, right? So those are like general accounting concept, which is same way applies to the governmental accounting as well, but it's about like how and where you need to disclose. If those are being related to fiduciary fund, then that will disclose in the fiduciary fund. If those are related to the government fund, it will go to the government fund as well as consolidate into the government-wide financial statement. If it is neither related to fiduciary, proprietary or government fund, it is for the general use of the business purpose, general use of the governmental activity, it will directly go into the government-wide financial statement. Those things you need to keep in mind, right? So government must maintain the records for all general capital assets, general long-term liabilities separately. Although these accounts are not reported in the governmental fund financial statement, instead they are used to gather information necessary for reporting these items in the government-wide financial statement and disclosure notes to provide the additional information about them. Right? General capital assets purchased or constructed by the government are typically recorded at their cost. When you are constructing any building or any you can say floor or any infrastructure, so all the items need to be disclosed at a cost. But if the government has received anything in the form of donation, right, maybe like UN has given certain funds to the government, for example, like if you remember back in 2015, Japan government has gifted Rudraksh Center to India, right? So that is being reported at the fair market value. So if something you're receiving as a gift or as a donation, right, so those items need to be disclosed at the fair market value. If you are constructing something of your own, that need to be reported at cost. So fair market value on the date of receipt of the goods or services, or you can say the gifts or grants or any donation, right? So there are four types of capital assets. One is like acquisition or construction, which is your property, plant and equipment that you need to depreciate, or if it is intangible, that will go to the amortization, right? Second is disposal. Third one is disposal, reduce assets, accumulated depreciation, net investment in capital with the sale proceed for any financial resources. That means if you are selling any asset, you will be reducing that from the fixed asset register, you will be reducing the accumulated depreciation, and the amount which you are receiving is being netted off against the respective investment. Fourth one is the capital assets impairment evaluated for the permanent impairment, that is impairment loss recognition, which you will be doing at each year end or the period end. Right? Infrastructure assets may be modified, may use the modified approach instead of depreciation. No gain or loss is recognized for sale or transfer between the government entities, and impairment of the physical damage used to be restored the cost, while other impairment use various approaches based on specific circumstances, and the impairment loss is being recognized in the expenditure, right? So there's a small practical question. Maybe let's do this one really quick. Reporting a general infrastructure assets by all public institutions that report a special purpose government either engage only in governmental activity or engage in both governmental and business type activity is considered as what? Reporting of general infrastructure assets. This is what? General infrastructure asset by all public institutions that report as a special purpose government either engage only in the governmental activity or engage in both government or business type activity. Where should they report? Required to use full governmental model, encouraged but not required, required beginning with the fiscal year ending after June 15, 2006, or required using special provision of 𝐂𝐴SB Statement 35 for the Phase 3 public institution. Which one they need to use for the disclosure? Are you guys here? Ayush, Akash, Fancy, Arun? Yeah. So the question is reporting of general infrastructure asset by all public institutions that report as a special purpose government either engage only in the governmental activity or engage in both government and business type activity. They are required using full governmental model, encourage but not required full governmental model, or require at the beginning of the fiscal year and end of the June 2006, or require using special provision of 𝐂𝐴SB. What they need to do? Have you understood the question?
मेरे को तो डर ही नहीं होगा सर
Arun,
Can
Pranchi,
एक बार सर
sorry, what you're saying, Ayush?
यानी एक बार दोबारा रीड कर दो मेरे को थोड़ा
हाँ.
क्लैरिटी कम आई है
Reporting of general infrastructure asset by all public institutions that report as a special purpose government will be either engage only in the governmental activity or engage in both activity, governmental or business type activity. How they need to report infrastructure asset? Required to use full governmental model, encourage but not required to use full governmental model, and required beginning fiscal year or ending June 2006. I don't know what it is. Require using special provision of gas bill.
सर फुल गवर्नमेंटल मॉडल ही होगा
Why? Why they need to follow full governmental but not, like it's not mandatory? Why it is mandatory? Why it's not recommendatory?
सर
Here, like third and fourth answer, like are incorrect, but only first and second answer, you need to select the best right answer. So as we have studied, when you are having like the infrastructural assets and you are a public institution for the special purpose government entity, then you are mandatorily have to follow the full governmental model. It's not recommendatory, it's mandatory.
Okay.
Right? Right, Arun, Pranchi?
Yes.
Okay, so next one is journal and proprietary long-term liabilities. What is long-term liabilities?
Payable after 12 months?
Yes. Yeah, so general long-term liabilities, as you all know, like payable after the financial year or payable after the 12 month or payable after the operating cycle, as the case may be, right? General long-term liability include unmatured long-term liability, not specific to the proprietary or fiduciary or reported in the government financial statement. So general long-term liability are not related to any specific fund, whether it's governmental fund, proprietary fund, or fiduciary fund, right? Hence, it is being directly reported in the government-wide financial statement. Make sense?
Right.
Second is specific fund long-term debt is recorded in the respective fund. If there is any specific fund for the specific loan for the specific fund, then that loan need to be disclosed in that particular fund financial statement. Very logical, right?
Yes, sir.
And these are to be reported at present value. So all the borrowings you need to disclose at present value. Right? Transaction affecting long-term liability include issuance of new debt, like when there will be any change in the long-term debt. When you are issuing new debt, that will add. If there is an amortization of the premium or discount, that will may impact the change. If you are retiring any debt or if you are paying anything out of the debt, so right. So these are the you can say the reason which may result into change or movement in the debt balance basically. Right?
ये तो लिखा है जनरल लॉन्ग टर्म लाइबिलिटीज रिपोर्टेड एट प्रेजेंट वैल्यूज स्पेसिफिक फंड लॉन्ग टर्म डेट इज रिकॉर्डेड एट विच वैल्यू ये तो लिखा ही नहीं वो
Understood.
फंड लिखा है सिर्फ
Got it. I buy your point. So specific fund long-term debt is being reported in the respective fund, right? For example, you have a let's say fund for let's say development of a hospital in your city. Let's say you are a city local government for the city, and you have established a separate fund to create a hospital in your city. For that, certain money you have been considered in the budget, and certain amount you are planning to take the loan for the establishment of the hospital. right? In that case of scenario, whatever is the loan balance, right, there you'll be disclosing the amount which is being payable, right, which is being payable to the bank. On the other hand, when it is coming to the government-wide financial statement, where you'll be reporting only the journal liability. That means, for example, like Government of India has taken certain loan from IMF, right? At what amount we need to disclose that loan. So that particular loan need to be disclosed at the present value of the future cash outflows.
Right.
So are two different things.
Okay.
Right? So how normally we disclose the loan, right, in the normal financial statement, same way we'll be disclosing in the fund financial statement. But when it comes to the government-wide financial statement, if for the government journal activity, government has taken certain loan from the third party or outsider, that need to be disclosed at the present value.
सर ये एक बार लिखी दो ना, रेस्पेक्टिव फंड के आगे ब्रैकेट में लिख दो या तो
One second. Specific fund long-term debt is recorded in the respective fund
as recorded normally in other financial statements.
at amount payable, while journal long-term debt is reported at present value of right?
Yes, sir.
In the government-wide financial statement. Lease liability are recognized based on present. Lease liability again always recognized at present value, that we have studied in ASC 842 also.
Yes, sir.
So this is total future lease payable, total cash outflow in the lease payable, present value of the same. Right? Short-term lease have different recognition criteria that does not require to be present value. And disclosure of the lease include description of agreement, amount to be recognized, and the future amount payable as per the schedule. And lease liability are considered to be the long-term debt, and lease payment are considered as financing outflow for the proprietary fund on the cash flow statement. And exclusion exists for certain lease type, such as investment assets, intangible assets, inventory, and specific asset. Those item does not consider as lease item, right? For that, we have specific separate accounting standard codification, right? So this is about journal and proprietary long-term liabilities. One quick question here is, Newtown review of payroll records indicate that employee providing governmental services have accrued $250,000 of vacation pay, and employees of the proprietary fund have accrued $100,000 of vacation pay. It is anticipated that 5% of accrued vacation pay will be claimed by the employee within 60 days of 2001. However, would the vacation pay liability be recognized on the financial statement issued on 31st December year end? So what is the call of the question? How would the vacation pay liability be recognized in the financial statement? So, right. So first thing is, how much is the government fund liability? How much is the proprietary fund liability? And how much is the government activity liability? And what is the business-like activity? So first thing is, Newtown review the payroll record indicate that employee providing governmental service have accrued of $250,000 of vacation pay. Have accrued $250,000 vacation pay. An employee of the proprietary fund. It means in this, the proprietary fund have accrued $100,000. So maybe I'm just highlighting the key pointers. Proprietary fund have accrued $100,000. for the vacation pay. It is anticipated that 5% of the accrued vacation pay will be claimed by the employee in next 60 days, right? So how much you need to recognize the amount in government fund liability? So governmental services $250,000. Are you guys with me?
यस सर सर देखो उसमें 12,500 जो हो गया वो तो accrued vacation पे
So 5% of 250,000 is how much?
$12,500
$12,500, or 5% of 100,000 is
$5,000
5,000, right? So you have four amounts basically, right? So governmental fund liability 12,500, proprietary fund liability 5,000, governmental activity liability 250, business like activity liability is $100,000. So proprietary fund is business type activity, right? And the governmental service is governmental activity.
correct
So 250 and 100 will go to the governmental activity liability and business like activity. That is, I think, correct, right? So governmental fund liability, proprietary fund liability, governmental activity liability, and business like activity liability. Second option is incorrect, right? Governmental fund liability, proprietary fund liability, governmental activity liability, and business like activity. This third is also looks incorrect. Governmental fund liability itna, proprietary fund liability itna, governmental activity liability itna, and business likely activity. So here they are saying governmental fund liability will be 12,500, which is expected to be payable in next 60 days. Proprietary fund liability is $100,000. Governmental activity liability is 12,500, and business likely activity will be $100,000. So one second.
Confusing सा हो गया.
Confusing सा हो गया. One second. So first one is 250,000. Right? What they are saying, new town review, the payroll record indicate that the employee providing governmental services, right? This will go to the government, you can say activities.
तो हम ये देख लेते हैं ना कोई एक आइटम गवर्नमेंट एक्टिविटी जो है वो कितना आना चाहिए उसके बाद चार ऑप्शन में से वो जिसमें आ रहा है दो ऑप्शन ही बचेंगे मेरे ख्याल से.
So this is going to be in the proprietary fund liability. This is going to be proprietary fund liability. And then what they're saying, 12,500. So governmental services this much. 5% of accrued vacation pay will be claimed by the employee in 60 days.
फिर गवर्नमेंटल ही हो गया ना ये वेकेशन 12,500 भी क्योंकि ऑलरेडी का 5 नहीं गवर्नमेंट सर जो गवर्नमेंटल सर्विसेज है वेकेशन उसने 2,50,000 एक्रू करा बस उसी का 5% जो है एक्रूड वेकेशन पे है तो उसी के लिए होंगे ना.
To me it looks the right answer.
हाँ क्योंकि गवर्नमेंटल फंड लायबिलिटी नहीं बट सर उसमें गवर्नमेंटल फंड लायबिलिटी फर्स्ट में आ रहा है 12,500 और फिर गवर्नमेंटल एक्टिविटी लायबिलिटी आ रहा है 250. हाँ ठीक है. बिजनेस एक्टिविटी लायबिलिटी 1 लाख प्रोप्राइटरी सर यही होना चाहिए आंसर तो. हाँ
yeah, so maybe I'll get back to you. I'll see this answer again and I'll get back to you. So to me this one looks the right answer.
सर फोर्थ तो नहीं हो सकता क्योंकि उसमें पूरी फिगर ही ले रखी 250,000 की तो.
Yeah, so I'll see and get back to you on this question. But to me the first answer looks correct. I'll get back to you on this one.
Okay, sir.
Hmm?